Today's episode of the Rants of Izzo is brought to you by Spreely TV, Spreely.com. If you're looking for something free speech, which you should be supporting free speech movements, because if you haven't been told or observed by now, God knows how many people in the world are, we know how it's going. You know how your social media just bans you from shit. You're not allowed to talk about anything and all that crap and whatnot. So check out Spreely.com, Spreely TV. All things speak freely. You can go to your social media or your, what do you call it? I talk about this every day, guys. It's over on your app and everything else you got. Freedom Hub, Spreely TV. Let's have a show.
Prepare yourself.
The opinions of the host and guests on this show are exclusively just that, opinions. That means that they shouldn't be the cause of your state of being offended. Why does everybody get so butthurt?
Okay, let's go. Ready, go!
Sit down, shut up, and pay attention.
Damn!
This is the Rants of Izzo Show with your host, Dominic Izzo, from porn to politics. We touch every third rail we can find. You might want to put your headphones on so your mom can't hear this. It's been called the most entertaining 60 minutes on the internet, and it starts now. Let's do this.
Yeah, Rants of Izzo show here on Freely Media. Mercury retrograde is screwing with everything. Like, I gotta find our volume triggers. Yeah, visual, you guys will get us in a second. I'm just trying to get all this stuff in the background going. Looking over the chat, Maddie Wack, what's going on? Kate, Bev, can you guys hear us clear enough? We're waiting for Kayla to join in because she's having some technical. Miss Mercury retrograde, if you guys are not paying attention, is ridiculous. I can't find the levels look like they're shot to shit on our audio podcast, but it is what it is. You guys can hear good? Fantastic for all you listener podcast people. Okay, awesome. All right. Yeah, like I said, we're waiting on some visual shit to come. I'm gonna give you some behind the scenes stuff as we go, because apparently this is exactly what I'm gonna fucking have a shit fit in a second of like why, we need a producer to do this kind of stuff, but apparently we can't. Where's my, for those who don't know, let's do a real quick breakdown of Mercury retrograde for those who are coming in, and give it in. Bev, over in the chat, can you actually send any type of information that we would need to know for that? There you are. Yeah.
Yes, man.
Dude,
good morning.
Yeah. This Mercury retrograde's been screwing with everything, which is why I said, hey, can you jump on kind of early today?
All right, I didn't see it.
Hi,
everyone.
That's why I'm doing with that stuff, because yesterday we shit the bed with the first few minutes. Audio sounds like, or as low as crap today, apparently, and we have it for another several. Yeah, you're fine. Another several weeks since those days.
Okay.
All right, let's get right to it because I don't have any time to waste today. Have you been following or paying attention to the Daniel Penny subway case in New York?
I know very little about it. I'm familiar, but I don't know like the latest.
We need to have a conversation.
This other thing in New York.
Yeah, what other thing in New York?
The health insurance CEO getting
I can give
in the back.
Fuck about him. I give a fuck about Jordan Neely, the victim either.
Yeah.
But this is an issue that people are going to start to realize they have, that this is actually more serious than anything else. And I think that it's from a perspective from somebody who's married to a cop, you actually should chime in on what your thoughts are. Just to give a quick recap for those who are unaware, on May 1st of 2023, a 30-year-old homeless man who is black or was black named Jordan Neely died after 24-year-old Marine veteran Daniel Penny put him in a chokehold. Neely boarded a New York City subway at the 2nd Avenue train station just before it departed and reportedly began screaming that he was hungry, he needed a job, He was not afraid of going to prison. He was ready to die, he was threatening people. Freelance journalist Juan Alberto Vasquez, who witnessed the incident, said that Neely removed his jacket, violently threw it to the floor, resulting in other passengers moving away from him. Vasquez said that he did not see Neely assault anyone. Other witnesses reportedly fearing death from Neely's actions included him throwing trash at other passengers, approaching people. Penny, who's the defendant, then approached Neely from behind and put him in a chokehold. So a couple different things I want to break down up front. Have you ever been on you were a model. You had to have been in the New York scene, right?
Mm-hmm. Very familiar with the subways. Yes.
Okay, so we have that out here in Chicago. We call it the L. And we have blue line, red line, pink line, brown line, purple line. If you take the red line, you're typically either going to a Cubs game or you're going to Comiskey Park, even though it's not called that anymore. And it's a high chance that if you actually sit in the seat, you will sit in urine because of all the pieces of shit who are there. You will see lots of black people all over the place. There are stabbings, there's shootings. It's just a cesspool. Can you give any type of experiences you have personally seen or had on a subway in New York?
Well, so I was there during, let's see, it was 2007 to early 2009 era. So quite a long time ago for those of you who are currently in New York. It's, I'm sure, kind of a different animal along with San Francisco. But when I was there and I was using the subway system, we had overall, compared to what I'm hearing about it now, a rather clean, a rather safe experience with the subway system. I did see rats that were the size of my cats. That was a bit disturbing. I'd never heard of such a thing before. They were like the size of possums. But other than that, we had, there were quite a few instances where I remember homeless people trying to get out of the snow, get out of the rain. Urine, feces, smells, but I never saw anything like, I never saw somebody like popping a squat in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, didn't have that experience. Did have experience a few times where I was on the subway train and somebody just kind of, I would assume that they were homeless by appearances, judging a book by its cover, right? And so I would go to the other side of the car or change cars just to keep myself safe, because I was honestly traveling by myself around the city 9.9 times out of 10. But there were also people that I wish it would have been a little more available to me to judge a book by its cover, because there were men in suits that ended up being very dangerous as well, so it's probably a very different animal now, but some of the same like things that women tend to look out for to keep ourselves safe when we don't have a bodyguard with
us. Is it
racist
if we have the thing called pattern recognition, and is it racist that if a black man comes on a train and he starts taking his jacket off and talking loudly to himself and saying, "I need a job, I'm not going back to prison, I'm not afraid to die," are you racist if you choose to get up from your seat and move either to a different car down the aisle because you are worried about physical violence from him? Is that racist?
I wouldn't say it's racist. I think it's smart, especially as a female. I actually had one instance, now that you bring race into it, my memory serves me correctly. I had one instance where a white homeless man was making very inappropriate, loud comments towards me, and had moved to my side of the car. There wasn't very many people in the car, so he saw me when I came into the car before we took off, and a black gentleman actually got in between us and told him to back off and kept me safe for the remainder of the ride. He was a very nice gentleman. So, it shouldn't be a race thing. It's just so ridiculous. It should be good men, bad men.
Yeah, but we don't have that. It is
good versus evil.
It is cultural, because every time we want to talk about, well, there's one good black guy who stepped in, or there's one white cop who's actually not a scumbag, the exceptions don't disprove the rule. Pattern recognition is real. If you go to the city,
no, it doesn't disprove the rule, but I'm also not going to pretend like they don't exist.
No, nobody said they don't exist. If my niece says she's going to go walking on Michigan Avenue for Christmas holiday and go look at the stores and all this stuff in Chicago, I'm going to tell her flat out, you get a group of black teens walking towards you, you better cross the street. Because I'm tired of the naivety where people who walk around and they're like, oh, you can't judge a book by its cover, while they're all robbing you of your iPhone and stomping on your head while you're on the ground, because pattern recognition in this community says that there's a legitimate problem. I'm going to put this legitimate problem in pattern recognition on the police in this instance, and how we are at a point right now where cops once again have proven they're the enemy of the people. For those who don't know, who are following this case, we're at an update of this Daniel Penny trial. And as of today, here's the latest news. Jurors are deadlocked in the Daniel Penny manslaughter trial over subway chokehold in the death of Jordan Neely. Jurors at Daniel Penny's trial in the caught on camera subway chokehold death. Now, let's go back to the chokehold for a second. For those who don't know, you have two means of dying, if you will, by a chokehold, and that's either going to be your airflow, which is your windpipe, and that's going to be crushed or constricted. That's all the way back when the first chokehold case started to become controversial. Eric Garner in New York and the loose cigarette, and Dr. Michael Baden, who was famous from HBO's Autopsy, who's like 147,000 years old, comes on and says, yes, his windpipe was crushed. And it's always semantics, in my view, to a degree. And the analogy I used back then when you look at crushing is, if I take an empty Coke can and I squeeze it all the way till it's crushed in my hands, that's crushed. But if I also squeeze it till it's maybe an eighth crushed, it's still crushed. The problem is nobody ever goes into the depth of the damage, right? They just use a buzzword and people will get pissed. Then you have, to a degree, what we saw with George Floyd, that was blood flow. So you have two carotid arteries that are pumping blood in the side of your neck. And there's a video of me on my YouTube channel of me being put in a chokehold by a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who happens to be a commander in the McHenry County Sheriff's Department. And it took 3 seconds, and I was out for, I think, 18 seconds. So the whole issue on that is that there's the chokehold, which has been used. It's the primary move in MMA that puts people to sleep. I think they call it the lion killer in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It is, by ratio of applications versus death, the safest move in the world to secure somebody. Right. When we look at this, and I'm going to play some medical evidence testimony, which should really piss everybody off in a minute. Keep that in mind. You have to keep that in mind. Now, cops are not allowed to use it anymore unless it's in deadly force, because politicians who think they know what the fuck the job is, they've been making statements on this. The 12-person panel sent a note Friday morning today saying that it's having trouble reaching a consensus on whether to convict Penny, who's 26 years old, of recklessly causing Neely's death by placing him in a 6-minute chokehold on May of 2023. Here's more buzzwords. Now, it's kind of not fair to ask you because you're educated to a degree on this one, and I think you'd probably be smart to discern this. But when you hear 6-minute chokehold, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? If you're on that jury and you hear he had him in a chokehold for 6 minutes, what's your viewpoint on that?
Well, a real chokehold, like you just perfectly described, doesn't take 6 minutes. So he was trying to control the situation by keeping someone in a hold.
Let's play good juror or bad juror. All right, I'm going to be the prosecution for a second. Mr. Penny had Mr. Neely in a chokehold for 6 minutes. And you're going to be like, oh my God, that's awful. You got to play the role. You got to go, oh my God, that's awful. I can't believe he did that.
Oh my God, my hand is on my heart. That's just awful.
Now I'm going to play defense attorney. Miss Juror, when the prosecutor says that Mr. Neely, my client, had Mr. Penny, my client, had Mr. Neely in a chokehold for 6 minutes, are you aware of the amount of pressure that Mr. Penny was applying for the duration of that 6 minutes on Mr. Neely?
Well, okay, sorry. I'm trying to act like the good juror or the bad juror.
Either one. Here's the whole point. The point is they don't tell you. Well, did he have
They don't tell you, exactly.
Did he have him in 100 pounds of pressure for 6 minutes? Or did they have him just in the position holding it and not squeezing? That's the bullshit I can't stand when it comes down to this crap and why the typical public is ignorant and stupid. We're continuing on. Penny's lawyers have said that the Marine veteran and the aspiring architect was justified in protecting passengers from a man who they witnessed yelled, "Someone is going to die today," and said he was ready to go to jail after boarding the Uptown F train.
And he said he was ready to die.
That's what he said, correct.
Right.
So, I mean, that shows intent to a degree. I want to play what the medical examiner had to say about when she was testified, because so far, all the world has, and this is what I want people to realize. While you're worried about which side you're choosing, Daniel Penny, who's a Marine and he did the right thing, or, oh, you're outraged that another black man died at the hands of a white man, blah, blah. The cops are playing Homer Simpson in the bushes, thanking God you don't see them for the fucking cowards that they are. I want to play this, and we're going to listen to the medical examiner's testimony.
The prosecution close to resting its case in the manslaughter trial of Daniel Penny. Good evening, I'm Dick Brennan.
And I'm Mary Calvi. Christine and Maurice are off. It's a dramatic update in the case of the Marine veteran who has pleaded not guilty to charges related to the chokehold death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely.
Witnesses testified Neely entered the subway last year threatening people, and Penny tried to restrain him. Dozens of people have testified on the stand. The prosecution alleges Penny used excessive force. Alice Gaynor has been in the courtroom all week. She's live outside with an update. Alice.
Dick and Mary, prosecutors called more than 30 witnesses to the stand. The last to testify is the doctor who performed the autopsy on Jordan Neely. We just got an update moments ago. Court is finished for the day, but the defense has not finished their cross-exam, so the medical examiner will return Monday for questioning. Today, jurors were shown photos from the autopsy, in particular of Jordan Neely's neck and eyes. Dr. Cynthia Harris ruled Jordan Neely's cause of death compression of the neck or asphyxia. Prosecutors say Daniel Penny had Neely in a chokehold.
So keep that in mind. She ruled that his death was asphyxia or what? Oh shit! What did she say? It was compression of the neck. I want to get that very clear.
Prosecutors say Daniel Penny had Neely in a chokehold for nearly 6 minutes. In a voluntary police station house interview, Penny demonstrated.
And I kind of came like this.
Okay. Did you apply pressure, Daniel?
No, I wasn't. I just wanted to keep him from getting to people.
After Penny let go of Neely, several witnesses, including responding officers, testified Neely had a pulse. Dr. Harris says that's not surprising. This is an asphyxial death. The brain dies first. Neely had sickle cell trait. She testified it's normally benign, an asymptomatic condition, but his spleen and red blood cells were sickled. In her medical opinion, she testified it was caused because he was in a low oxygen situation.
So number one, we can't ever defend ourselves against black people anymore because we don't know who's got the active sickle cell. So now let's ultra protect this protected class and spare them from the violence that they're supposed to do. And it's okay because we don't know who's got the sickle cell. Can't judge a book by its cover, but you should absolutely be looking at a black person going, fuck, hands off. They might have sickle cell anemia and I can't do shit. Go ahead, Mr. Black Man, cause chaos, rob us all, shoot us all, do whatever you want. That's just my 2 cents on that. Let's continue.
Right.
A toxicology report revealed Neely had a synthetic cannabinoid, otherwise known as K2, in his system. But she told the jury no one can say how much.
Pay attention to this part. Pay attention to this part. So he has synthetic weed cannabinoid in him, and she says no one can say how much. But
Well, the doctor that did the autopsy should be able to tell us exactly how much.
well,
It's not that complicated.
I want you to listen to her statement when she says about the copious amounts of potential that was in his system.
Because current testing does not quantify it. It only determines if it's present, since synthetic cannabinoids change like fashion trends. On cross-examination, defense attorneys asked her about higher rates of toxicity and hospitalizations due to K2. She said it was 2 to 100 times more potent to standard natural occurring cannabinoids. They also noted after...
Right. Okay. So that's one thing. It's 2 to 100 times more potent. Now, here comes more shit where they never tell you which end is up, because who's going to say, well, it was only 2 times more, but could have been 98 times more? Well, we just can't say, but they're always going to downplay something. So far, what we have again is, and I'm not doing this whole shit with, because I've defended George Floyd. I don't think George Floyd was killed by Derek Chauvin. That was never my position. My position was Derek Chauvin tortured him, and that was worse than fucking, that was, we're cops, we could do this because we can. That was it. It was the public perception bullshit. So once again, we have consumptions of illicit drugs in somebody's system, a chokehold that was applied, a faint pulse. So far, you have a medical examiner says it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Well, here's what she had to finish up saying about that. Oh, no, we're not done. We're not done with this. This statement, well, I'll let it play.
After she performed the autopsy, Neely's death certificate originally said cause of death pending further study. Dr. Harris said that was due to a misunderstanding. A police report said Neely had been screaming, so she had questions. After viewing video of an unresponsive Neely, and though waiting for toxicology results, she made her ruling, doubling down, telling the jury that Neely could have had enough fentanyl in his system to knock down an elephant, and that still would not have changed her opinion.
Could have had enough fentanyl in his system, and it wouldn't change your opinion. At what point?
So in other words, we're not trusting the science.
Well, at what point could Neely have shot himself in the head with a .45 twice, right? Pulls the trigger once, and for some strange reason, the body does another automatic nervous sympathetic reflex, pulls the trigger again, blows his head clear the fuck off, and she goes, well, even if his brains were all over the subway car, I'm still going to attribute this to the chokehold to killing him.
Right.
How, that in itself, do you think, and I want to start compiling the concept of criminals protected. Is it fair that you would assume that this white medical examiner woman has a soft spot for black criminals in the state that she's testifying in?
Oh, I don't think she has a soft spot. I think she's owned. Follow the money.
Okay.
She's owned. There's some blackmail. There's some, in order for a doctor, quote unquote, whatever the fuck that means anymore, to put her entire reputation on the line for a case like this and be giving out the evidence so in such a skewed manner without much logical or deductive reasoning applied to it. There's a agenda here, and she's part of making sure that that agenda comes to pass. I mean, why is this kind of resurfacing right now, Dominic?
The swearing in January.
Post-election, like we've got this freaking, health insurance CEO getting gunned down in the middle of New York City by some, attractive Joker smile white guy with freaking code written on the bullet casings. I mean, this is ridiculous. What are we watching?
Well, here's what you're watching. So I want to see if she said anything else. We're going to finish this up because there's like 30 seconds left.
Again, court is finished for the day, but they are not done with this witness. She will be questioned again on Monday. The defense will finish.
All right, that was that. So her statement holds true that it doesn't matter if this man had enough fentanyl in his system to kill an elephant. She, because she's a medical expert, this is what I want you to put 2 and 2 together, right? Here's a medical expert. Your loved one could be in the hospital, and a nurse could have come in and poured rat poison down her throat. And because a medical examiner says, no, well, there's a pre-existing heart condition here, so we're ruling that death a heart attack. Because of the power of the medical examiner, that is the issue. Let's move over to the judges now, because I want to talk about Jordan Neely himself and the criminal he was. Jordan Neely had an extensive, in 2007, when Neely was 14 years old, his mother was murdered by a man who she had known in an abusive relationship. Her body was found in a suitcase on the side of Henry Hudson Parkway. Neely called to testify that, according to his aunt, he developed major depression, schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder. after the murder of his mother. He was placed into foster care as a youth. Okay, so we have...
You know who else has post-traumatic stress disorder?
I don't know.
A lot of veterans.
Well, yeah, we don't give a fuck about that.
This is just George Floyd all over again. They took down the cops with George Floyd, and now they're taking down the veterans in the military with this guy.
Okay. Hold that standard. Hold that standard. We need to come back to that. Remind me to come back to what you just said. You just proved or offered an opinion that the system is designed to fuck over cops. That's okay. So hold that thought for a second.
Not just cops, though. It's not just cops. The system is designed to fuck over the people.
Sure.
Free people.
Sure. Neely had an extensive criminal history, including 42 arrests on charges including petty larceny, which is theft, jumping subway turnstiles. That's civil problem because he's robbing from them. Theft. 3 unprovoked assaults on women in the subway between 2019 and 2021. He was frequently homeless, and he had been involuntarily hospitalized for mental issues in the past. According to the media, once Neely became homeless, he slipped into a cycle of mental health crisis, arrests, hospitalizations that would come ultimately to his death. Okay,
so in other words, he's a major flight risk,
and he has a violent history.
Yeah.
Now, what is your level of expectation for both homeless and criminal elements in your city to be helped or be held accountable for their criminal actions? And they're separate. Doesn't mean because you're homeless, it's synonymous with being a criminal and vice versa. But do you expect your city to say, hey, we're going to help the homeless, or hey, we're going to lock these criminals up and hold them accountable?
Well, in a logical world, yes, absolutely I do. But I live in California. So my expectations are unfortunately never met on these sorts of things.
With 42 arrests, now, let's play you're the victim here, and you're with a loved one, and Jordan or Neely goes ahead and he's on the subway that you're on, and he kills somebody that you're related to and somebody that you love, and you find out he's got 42 arrests on his criminal history, and he keeps getting released on the streets. Are you looking into taking any legal action, and if so, against who?
Against the state or the county that is supposed to be keeping me safe, that has taken a pledge with the Constitution to keep us, the people, safe.
Okay, so who in this scenario are the ones that are supposed to be keeping you safe? Is it the police?
Yeah. Well, and this is where because I don't trust anything about the system and the way that they tell us it's supposed to run, because they don't run it the way that they tell us it's supposed to run. I believe in personal responsibility and keeping yourself safe.
Oh, don't jump the gun.
If another person is going to step in and help me keep me or my family safe, then that is why the Second Amendment
Don't ruin my
exists.
setup. Don't ruin the fucking setup. Here's how this goes. It's not the job of the police to administer punishment on the street.
Exactly.
So here is my ultimate problem for those who are playing the at-home game. You have cops who they knew who Neely was. 42 arrests. Every time they arrest him, they goes to court. The liberal DA just doesn't prosecute. He's released on the street. The people who are supposed to hold him accountable are the prosecutors, presenting the case to the judge. The judge sentences and throws him in the lockup for corrections, right? So you got the correctional facility, you got the judges. Those are the main two. Ultimately, it's the judges, because the correction officers can't do their job by housing this person if the judge doesn't properly sentence this person. And if the DA or SA, depending upon...
won't even bring charges.
Correct.
9 out of 10 times.
Everything's a plea deal. If that's the case, then we need to start looking at the district or state's attorneys and the judges. The cops. This is why I keep saying the cops are the biggest fucking cowards out there. You shitbags in New York knew who this was, and you dealt with them how many times? And you're probably bitching to your unions, bitching to your state representatives, or whoever winds up coming into running for office and they want your union support. Yeah, I'm going to change criminality on the street. And you know this is a problem that will never, ever go away. So you can't. Here's what the cops can't do. They can't beat the shit out of Neely, right? That's what the public. It's what the public wants. The public wants more George Floyds out there punished with a knee on the neck. That's the bloodthirsty mob. So if the cops can't do that, then what has to happen is you get somebody like Daniel Penny stepping up and saying, well, fine, I'm going to do the job the courts refuse to do in the moment. Now, if this was a cop who did this and the cop pulled out a gun and shot Neely, who is unarmed, we know that the cop would have the law on their side. There would be this giant totality of the circumstances. There would be no immediate criminal charges on the cop. There would be no arrest. There would be an investigation into the department policy, but that's it. But here we have cops who nonstop complain and bitch and moan about recidivism, about the DA not doing their job, fucking judges not doing their jobs, criminals, career criminals, and a subject steps up to fucking step in place to do the job that the American people should be doing themselves, and these fucking pussy paycheck collectors step up and have no problem arresting this guy.
Right.
None. They interview him. He's in an interrogation, and you think one cop would have looked at him before this shit happened and said, shut the fuck up and ask for a lawyer. Before we hit record on this, ask for, well, I just want to help you guys. Shut up. You have the right to remain silent, Mr. Penny. Okay, so Mr. Penny, let me go. Do you understand you have the right to remain silent? It's more proof that you police are not on your fucking side at all. These cops should have been the ones on trial, not Penny, because they have no problem stepping and fetching when the government says, go arrest this guy for fucking doing a job that we failed to do. Every cop in New York should be in that courtroom, and if the judge says, okay, I sentenced you to life in prison, they should all surround him and go, hey, that's awesome, but we're not allowing this. It's not going to fucking happen.
Yeah,
but they will not fucking do it. Cops are the problem in America, and this case with Daniel Penny is the literal proof they will never be on the side of the people.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I do think that there are a lot of cops that are also owned, just like I talk about this medical examiner that's owned and being a part of the agenda. Like, there's a lot of people in leadership roles that in different departments, and even sheriffs, sheriffs are supposed to be constitutionally appointed. There's a lot of sheriffs that are owned too. Like, the Matrix doesn't just skip over because you have a badge.
No, they're owned. They're 100% owned by that paycheck. And you're in California. How much did you see during the pandemic? Any shit that you went, oh my God.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Disturbing.
And I didn't.
And it's always, you know what? It's always the men and women in uniform who have it's astonishing to me that they pass the psych eval to wear the badge. Like, they have glaring red flags when it comes to the way that they deal with people in social situations and conduct themselves. Glaring narcissism, glaring, for lack of a better word, little man syndrome. You know what I mean? Like, they've got something to prove. They were bullies or they were bullied in high school, and they never fucking got over it. They never went to therapy. They never will go to therapy because they're too good for therapy. You know what I mean? It's like, they have traumas like everyone else that they are dealing with in a certain way. And then you have people who genuinely love the job and want to affect change in the world. But the two are oil and water. And the people that are, 2020 really showed us, I think, not only with law enforcement, but also with the medical community, that there are a lot of people who are what I call NPCs, non-player characters, that are just playing a role because that's what they are here to do. And then there are people who are owned. And there are more of those two categories, it feels like, than there are of, the honest, hardworking people.
There are none. We talk about this all the time with Matt and Scott. How many people, if you legitimately look at,
you can't tell me that there are none, because I am married to one who has at least two other people in his department who stood for things that no one else did during 2020.
Out of how many in a department?
And have been, have had to.
How many? How many in a department?
Exactly.
So he has firsthand knowledge. He has firsthand knowledge of how they will turn their back on him and look to string him up any fucking chance they get. But we talk about, Matt and Scott and I talk about the people and how many people will not. You get like Biden, who's giving more fucking money away. He's raping and burning down the country as he leaves office.
Yeah.
And you would think that 81 million people would show up outside of the White House and go, stop this, or we're storming the castle and arresting you. But they're not going to do it. Here's more.
Yeah.
This is. I want to paint the picture of the world we live in right now and how fucked up things are, to where you have the Daniel Pennies out there who cops will keep their paycheck by arresting him and not holding the system accountable. You've got a border which has a flood of migrants, illegal criminal invaders crossing. And these people, they are drug addicts, rapists, murderers. They don't care about blending into culture whatsoever. And again, what do we have? The cops. Our hands are tied. Our hands are tied. Our hands are tied. I want to play this story. I don't know if you've seen this yet. This is a mom from Georgia. And these are your police officers who, this is their job, right? Things are so shitty in Georgia that, we have to make a proper arrest.
Of a 10-year-old boy couldn't believe it when cops showed up at her door, put her under arrest and in cuffs. But she says she was really shocked when they told her what she was being charged with, and you may be too. Allison Hall has details.
A mom of 4 is about to get the shock of her life when she opens the door to her home.
Turn around for me.
Why?
Because you're under arrest.
She's perplexed.
What am I under arrest for?
For reckless endangerment.
Say what?
I was in a state of disbelief, really.
It turns out that unbeknownst to Brittany Patterson, her 10-year-old son had gone off on his own to a dollar store in town, about a mile away. Cops got involved when a passerby saw the boy and called them.
Now, I will throw in this in there because I don't know if they talk about it. They live on a 15-acre unincorporated home in, that's why county sheriff showed up, and the kid's homeschooled. So she went to the store. She went to the doctor's office. He didn't want to go, so she let him stay home. Grandfather was there. He walks to the store. Nancy nosy bitch says, oh, my God, what is this? The cops make contact, pick this kid up, drive him home. Several hours later.
Oh, so they kidnapped the kid?
They bring him back home. Several hours later, after determining nothing is fucking wrong with him, the cops went out of their fucking way to come up with criminal charges.
I figured he just, was out in the woods or went to grandma's house.
Deputies picked up her son, Soren, and drove him back to the house in rural Georgia. The population of the town is just 223. 5 hours later, cops returned with an arrest warrant.
Okay, for those who don't know, the process of an arrest warrant is this fat piece of shit fucking dyke cop has to take all the information, goes back to the department, writes up the report. Then they contact, they're already at county, so they're going to contact the on-call district or state's attorney. They're going to review all the information. The attorney doesn't know any of this shit and just has to listen to whatever the testimony is of the cop only. They don't get the side of the fucking citizen. The attorney says, okay, here, we're going to sign this off. She goes before a judge and swears it in. This bitch could have kicked in her door and gone in and raided it and take her into custody. That's how much power your police have when you back the fucking blue arbitrarily.
Oh, but in order to kick that door in, she would need to be somewhat fit. And I mean, this is a joke.
It's another cow in a fucking uniform.
Another tirade.
On for about an hour, while mom had taken another child to a doctor's appointment.
Last time I checked, it wasn't illegal for a kid to walk to the store.
So. It is when they're 10 years old.
It was humiliating, especially the part where I had to, strip down and get into jail clothes.
Social media is in an uproar, calling the arrest an overreach, ridiculous, absurd. Other commenters are less sympathetic. If something had happened to that kid, everyone would be up in arms, asking where his mother was. Lawyer David DeLugas represents Brittany.
It's not a crime to not know where your nearly 11-year-old child is at every minute of every day.
You're going to fight this, from what I understand.
Yes, I am. I don't think any parent should be arrested for making a decision that they think is safe for their child and for their family just because somebody else might disagree with that.
Yeah, but your police think that. So that's where we're at right now, right? So
that's just disgusting.
Oh, it's not. We're not
disgusting.
We're not.
That's like
done.
It's like the freaking squirrel and raccoon getting killed. Like, I mean, just what is happening? This is freaking Looney Tunes out here.
I have to find the dad loses custody trans kid.
But this is what they want to do. They want to put into law that cops can come and do this and break.
What do you mean they want to put in law?
If you don't affirm gender reassignment surgery for the 5-year-old.
Okay, so there we go. So number one, it's already in law right now that cops, and for those who don't know, you have kids, the test that we used to make about whether or not we would pursue criminal charges is, does your kid know where you are and have access to you? So if you went to the store that's 2-3 miles away, you had your cell phone on, you kids either had a house phone or a cell phone, they can say, hey, mom, house is on fire, you got to come back, hurry up. Then that's fine. It's when it's like, hey, where's your mom at? I don't know. Right. And you find out that mom's at a bar drinking or something, and there's 6 kids at a home, and the oldest one is 10 years old, and the youngest one is fucking, 2 months old. That's a problem. But now the state, keep in mind, here you have more cops who, they can't do their fucking job when it comes down to crime. They can't do their job when it comes down to securing a border. But they're going to put this woman through the DCFS system now, and Child Protective Services is going to come, open up a case. She's going to have to fucking piss test every fucking month, make sure the house is clean enough for the people to come in and just check whatever they want in their home. This is your police. This is your police. And here's your police more.
Well, this is the Matrix. Do you know why they feel like they're entitled to do this?
Because nobody stands up against them. Because nobody fucking stands up against them is why.
Because the birth certificate makes your child a ward of the state.
California judge, your state, dealt a devastating blow to a Texas father in his year-long fight to stop his ex-wife from allowing their preteen son, who identifies as a girl named Luna, to give gender-reaffirming care. The father of 2 announced on X that he lost all parental rights over his twin sons after an L.A. Superior Court judge, Mark Juhas, granted his estranged pediatrician ex-wife, Anne Jagorlius, fucking Greek, the authority to castrate her 12-year-old son, James. So here's this dad, and this is something about, we'll talk about masculine energy, right? This is where the police are the fucking enemy. So if you have a child and the state went to take away your son and they said, hey, listen, we're going to let your crazy aunt twice removed on your, mother's side have custody of your kid, and they can chemical castrate him because she's been poisoning his ear since the day he was born. He's really a girl. And the courts say, yes, this is my ruling. And your husband decides to be a fucking man and goes all like John Wick on everybody and kills everyone. The police can gun him down and say, no, we're doing what we're told. We have to follow the court's rules.
Right.
This is insane. If this father wants to protect his child against this diseased brain mother and go up, whatever, the dad goes over to the doctor's office when the appointment's in there and says, I'm not allowing this. I don't care what the courts say. There could be a standoff. This man could be gunned down by cops who once again fucking side with the system, and they do not care anything about parents, about children, about the fucking citizens that they swore an oath to. Nothing. Police are the enemy. End of story.
I think you know where I think this is all heading?
Where?
We have the gender reassignment stuff going on where basically that's all trying to move the Overton window as far as children can consent. Right? Never had this conversation before. It's always been pretty common sense that no one's brain is fully developed until at least 25, yet we can start drinking at 21 and we can go die in the military at 18. But okay, whatever. Like, at least children cannot consent to certain things. That's been very common knowledge until the last few years. Okay, so we've got that going on. At the same time, we've got multiple examples, as you have eloquently presented just today, on men standing up for what is right and people in uniform or otherwise waving the government flag in some way, shape, or form comes in to stop them from doing what is right, stop good men from coming up against bad men and women, right? Often in the protection of women and children. So the good men come in to save the day and be heroes, protecting innocent bystanders like we have in the subway system of New York, or children like we have in this father that you're explaining in California. And what is this all sort of like bubbling up and coming to a head to? I think we have a situation where they're trying to desensitize men specifically and make sure that women are sucking the dick of daddy government so hard that when we get to the point of pedophilia being mainstream, the conversation is going to be children can consent and men have no right to defend the innocence of their own children. And there's consequences in the government, brought by the government towards men who try.
Well,
I think that's where we're going because Satan runs this world and it's fucking evil.
So Muslims, they want a world of Muslims who can fuck 9-year-olds and marry 9-year-olds and say that's part of their religion. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but it's not just limited to Muslims.
No, I was saying that's right. I've heard that. Oh shit! What was it? Something along the lines that Islam will take over the world without even firing a single shot, and that's how they do shit like that. So if you normalize it,
I think that they want us to think that. I think it's actually.
Well, they're doing a damn good
Judaism.
job.
I think Judaism's taking over the world in a
What are you going to do?
Fashion.
You're on vacation with your husband and you see another Jordan Neely going around. You going to sit there and let him go put him in a chokehold? Or are you going to go, hey, no, because you're going to be on fucking trial next and then you're going to spend the life in prison for doing the right thing. How many people are going to step up and challenge the right thing, knowing that the boys and girls in blue who are more interested in parading around on fucking TikTok, lip syncing or showing off their fitness and bikini shit and selling their supplements at a discount, how many of them will fucking do this? Will stand up when it comes down time to defending what's right? You know what they'll do instead? They'll bitch about what somebody like Andy Frisella says when he comes down to talking about the reality of female cops. They'll bitch about what something like somebody I say, oh, you're painting all cops in a negative light. I'm sorry. The entirety of the system is corrupt. It doesn't matter if you have 3 good cops on a department of fucking 50. The entire system is corrupt and it's evil. And they're proving it every day.
Yeah. Agreed. And there's only so much that 3 good cops in a department of 50, and I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that everyone in my husband's department is evil. I'm just saying, like, the reality of the situation is that if you're not going to stand on the side of righteousness and goodness, what side are you on? If you're not on the side of freedom, what side are you on? Oppression. So at the end of the day, if you're not part of the resistance, I mean, you can see it in the movies V for Vendetta. You can see it in the movies Star Wars, right? Where you always cheer for the resistance, but you can't see it in real life right in front of you.
I can't remember whose account put it up yesterday, but I guess there was a 500-page congressional study, hearing, or whatever done that proved that the pandemic virus, the coronavirus, came from a lab in Wuhan, right? So now that there's, and of course it just goes very silently, you know, under the radar and all this shit. And here's my question. You have 2 sides of this. Here, if you have the government that just put out a statement saying, it's literal proof that ivermectin could have cured your family. The lockdown was useless. The masks didn't work. This pandemic came from a lab. We know nothing's going to happen. What should happen is, everybody should now take this as, all right, I'm never going to listen to the government again. If you choose to, you choose to. But even more so, you should have millions of people literally going to war with the government. They should be going to Cuomo's house in New York and demanding he fucking be publicly tried, convicted, and executed for what he did during the lockdown. And every other governor that mandated lockdowns, mandatory vaccine, every employer who listened to what it said, they need to be, their house is rated, just like fucking these Roger Stone and everybody else. When you get 50 fucking federal agents shows up at their home at 3 o'clock in the morning for some white collar fucking crime, you need to have the people showing up to these people's homes, kicking in their fucking doors, removing them at gunpoint, having their own public trials in the streets, finding them fucking guilty, and then following out the death sentence. Because apparently, no, but what are we going to do instead? Oh, well, yeah, we knew it. We knew it. We knew it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is ridiculous, but the wild, wild west, I'm not sure that the process of wild, wild west type justice is really what's going to fix it either.
Oh, I think it would fix it in a fucking heartbeat. Fix it in a fucking heartbeat.
But that's what the other side, quote unquote, the rule of polarity when we talk about this. It's like, that's what they're already doing.
You know what the Wild Wild West does is it teaches you to think before you act. I may be a quick-witted, insult-slinging genius, but here's a guy who's a better fucking shot than I am, can draw faster than I am, and damn, I think that all things being equal, the fact that he could kill me faster than I can, I need to watch what I say and think about the consequences before I act. Now, all right, let's get rid of the gun thing, right? Guns. How about I'm going to be 50 and I'm slowing down in age a little bit. Maybe I'm not as fast as I used to be. So if I get into a verbal conflict with some 26-year-old who's just as skilled and trained as I am, man, maybe he's faster than me. Maybe he's got my number. I got to decide, do I want to fucking go off and then go down swinging, or do I just want to chalk this one up to the kid's an asshole and walk away? Consequences on the spot. Consequences. Getting socked in the fucking jaw should tell people, oh, damn, maybe I shouldn't do this. Allowing Daniel Pennies out there to put to sleep permanently criminal fucking drug addicts should tell other criminal drug addicts, hey, damn, maybe I shouldn't fucking do this shit. But no, what do? We tell the black families of these criminal drug addicts, hey, yeah, let's sue because we're going to get paid. Because nobody gives a shit about a criminal black fucking drug addict until they're dead. If they did, they wouldn't look at the 42 arrests that he had and say, hey, maybe you don't want to go down this path. I'm going to clean up the extra room I have. You could stay here and I'll chain you to a radiator until you kick your drug habit. Nobody gives a shit, especially the police.
Well, and again, it comes back to, is it, by the time it gets to the police and it gets to the government trying to hold this individual accountable to moral code, the family has already failed this individual. Like, where's the father? Like you just said, why wasn't the family chaining him to the radiator to get him clean and make him an upstanding citizen? Are they even themselves really upstanding citizens? The buck doesn't stop with the government. The buck stops with individual liberty, because that's the land that we're supposed to be living in as a republic. And that requires personal responsibility that no one wants to take on.
That's protected classes, minorities, LGBTQ shit. That's their kryptonite, personal accountability. Yeah. I put up a reel the other day, 2 black girls confronting a white girl in like the hallways of school. And it's going to lead to a fucking gang fight. And they just kept going, where your friend at? Where your friend at? After like the 5th time of saying, where your friend at? I cut to me saying, where's your father at? That's all I said. It's got 700,000 views on my fucking Facebook. And the amount of DMs I get calling me a hillbilly, racist piece of shit by black people is amazing. Never mind the fact there is countless video evidence of me defending how the black community is abused and shit, but because you have this pattern recognition of impulsive, criminal, black behavior that's number one language is violence when it comes down to conflict resolution, that, oh, no, clearly the world is racist and against us, and God forbid we do anything. And sadly, the police know this. They see this on a daily basis. They can say, hey, listen, pattern recognition when tied to culture and culture is tied to race, and that will give you investigative skills into these crimes that are going on there. Hey, judge, why are you not putting this person into prison? They need to stand up and go, dude, we need to become protective services for the citizens, not the fucking criminals. Again, my position will ultimately be the cops have failed us. The cops are the enemy. And the only reason there's any law and order in this country left whatsoever is because of us law-abiding citizens who are terrified of the consequences from the fucking police. That's it.
Yeah, and more than just terrified of the consequences, we just know the difference between right and wrong, and we choose to live our lives a certain way because we take personal responsibility for shit.
At what point don't we?
That is the majority of this country, because if it wasn't the majority of our citizenship, the whole planet would have burned down by now. Yes. Like, we do have the law of the Lord written on our hearts and our consciences at the end of the day.
Yeah, and
there
that
are
should
people
go back
who choose actively to go against that, and those are the people that are causing issues in society.
Yeah,
but
we need to start
just at the end of the day too, like our cops, the main thing that I take issue with the Back the Blue crowd is that they also they look at our cops as if they are superheroes. There's a weird worship in that community that I don't align with. It's just, can you guys see like the altar that you are building for these men and women to fucking trip over? Like, no one is supposed to be worshipped. Respect, sure, but worship? It's twisted. And at the same time, you're expecting them to act like these, wild, wild west superheroes that are going to save humanity without simultaneously holding your governments at a local level and a higher level accountable to where the laws of the land are actually set up in a way that can inflict change for these cops on the street to actually do anything if they have good intentions. Our cops can't do anything.
It's paychecks, and they proved that during the pandemic, and they're proving it now. It blows me away that you have a criminal who 40-something arrests. The police had knowledge of him. They knew all this shit, and these blue fucking cowards had no problem interviewing this guy, interrogating him, getting all the evidence necessary to present to a district attorney to issue a fucking criminal charge. You know what? And cops, I know this firsthand. You can go to your district or state attorney and say, listen, this is the evidence. Please do not issue me a warrant. You can fucking say that. I have. The state's attorney looked at me like I was crazy, but I said, all I'm doing is presenting you the evidence. I don't agree with this. Don't issue me a warrant.
There's something called officer discretion. Yeah. It's still a thing, but nobody seems to want to flex.
No, they don't want to fucking
use it. They forget what their oath is actually to. It's not to your department. It's not to your city, the corporation that you work for. It's to the Constitution and the people that you're supposedly protecting and serving.
The paycheck. It's the fucking paycheck. It's the politicians paycheck. The police are the armed henchmen of the government. That's it. Man, it's disgusting. That's Friday. Tell everybody about Flex Your Feminine and what they could do to get their health and life back.
If you are a woman who's interested in getting out of the hustle matrix when it comes to yo-yo dieting and fitness that seems to never be enough, you've got to do more, then you might want to check out flexyourfeminine.com or Flex Your Feminine on Instagram and see what I have going on with different programs to respect your hormones as a woman while still getting incredible results that stay loyal for life.
Okay, women, you should do that because you got to be tired of being fat, disgusting bodies who sit there and say, not tonight, honey, I have a headache. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that. Guys, have an awesome weekend. Go check out Spreely.com, the social media platform for Spree Speech, Shannon Joy Show, Burn Pit Podcast, Report No Pine, Evening Rants, Pete Santilli, and a ton more. Have an awesome weekend. Go help somebody today. And if you can't help them, just don't hurt them. See you guys on Monday.